so hopefully won't all freeze. My name is Kirti, and I tell people, don't worry about my last name. I am VP of Marketing on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for about 3.5 years now. Is anybody in this room on Twitter? Yes? And what do you think?
I feel like I'm using it well or right or whatever.
Okay.
I just started. I have an account. I've made maybe 5 tweets.
Okay.
I have a lot of trouble transitioning from Facebook.
Yes, very different mediums. They're very, very different. We'll talk about that as we go into this. Anyone else? Any thoughts?
I started a couple of years ago and I was really into it. When I first started, I've gotten more away from it lately.
Mm-hmm. What makes you think that you got away from it? Like, why do you think you got away from it?
I think part of it was because I tried to follow too many people. And so when I would find the time to actually check in on my Twitter, it was overwhelming to try and keep up with everything.
Yeah, thank you.
And so I kind of just kept, getting away from it.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? You good?
I mean, I've been on Twitter for a while. I think like 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess out of this session, I kind of hope to get back my energy for it, my passion for it. It's kind of died down because I use it so much for work. So.
Gotcha. Let's get your Twitter mojo back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only the Twitter mojo.
Okay. You got the rest of the mojo.
Other mojos are fine.
All right. All right. Well, there's a few things to remember about Twitter, and a lot of people say, "Why should I be on Twitter? I don't want people to know what I had for breakfast." Well, there's a lot more to Twitter than just what you had for breakfast. Although I will confess, I tweet about my food. But basically, there's a few things to remember. One of the main things is that Twitter is a conversation. You have to think of it as, yes, you're digital, but if somebody tweets to you or you tweet to them, and then you say, "Hi, how are you?" and that person doesn't respond to you for 3 days, are you going to follow them back? No. You're going to think they're a little bit rude, maybe, have no manners, possibly. This is conversation. So, the main thing also is to keep in mind is that people really like to talk about themselves. So that's whether you're in person or whether you're on Twitter. So when you first get started, it's very slow. So you have to be patient. You find people that you want to follow. In your case, you found a lot of people you want to follow. And that's fine. That's what we do. I start new Twitter accounts for my clients, and that's the first thing I do. I find people that are relevant and that I think are interesting, and then you end up following a lot of people, and then you have like 6 followers. But you find those people that you're interested in talking with, and you think you're interested in talking with, and you start talking to them, and you ask them questions about themselves. You ask questions about what they're interested in, or if they have tweeted about their breakfast, maybe you ask them what they thought about their breakfast. So the main thing also to remember is that Twitter is about engagement. You really want to make people feel like you're interested, and if you are interested, people will find that interest within you. People talk a lot about authenticity, and I tend to roll my eyes a little bit, but if you're faking it, you're not going to make it. People are going to see through it at some point. There's a level that you cannot, you can't create, and you can't keep living that, because especially if you keep getting into Twitter and keep getting deeper and deeper into it, you can only be so fake for so long. Another thing to remember is don't spam people. So, like, for example, with TechPHX, we're all tweeting about it. Those of us who are active on Twitter, they've reached out and talked to speakers and things like that, but had the organizers started talking about TechPHX and they would just send the same tweet to 50 people, we'd get really annoyed and probably lose a lot of credibility within the Twitter community. And we would say, I don't think I want to go to that event because they're spamming everybody. So how many of you have set up accounts because of this event today? Anybody? Okay, that's fine.
I did reload mine. I did actually load it on my phone, but I haven't got around to actually posting anything with TechPHX on it.
Okay, no problem. Hopefully you'll feel inspired after this. If not, then not.
So I haven't framed up any content.
What's that?
I haven't managed to craft anything worthy of saying.
I understand, and honestly, you don't have to think, I would tell you not to overthink what you're tweeting. For example, I tweeted about the fact that there's no polite way to eat fried chicken, and I used the hashtag for this event, which is TechPHX, and I got retweeted and favorited by a lot of people that aren't even here. And, so it's not very interesting, but it was just kind of like, I was meeting people and I'm like, I have fried chicken on my hands and I'm eating fried chicken, there's no polite way for me to say hello, and that got retweeted. So don't overthink it. If you're thinking it and you think it's okay to post, go right ahead. But the one thing I will warn you about is that if you wouldn't put it up on a billboard, don't tweet it. Because once it's out there, it's out there. It's not going away. It's logged in the Library of Congress. It's out there. You can delete it, but it's still out there. So that's the one main thing I tell people before you hit send. Are you okay with having that up on a billboard? If not, don't send it. And if you're drinking or on something, don't tweet it, period. So here are some of the common Twitter terms that you should know if you're just getting started. For those of you who aren't on Twitter, if you have a username, like for example, my username is Dia Marketing, it's the name of my company. So that's my Twitter handle. So it can be anything you want it to be, as long as it's not already taken. So your Twitter handle would be @ and whatever your Twitter name is. So a lot of people that I'm meeting at this event, I introduce myself with my name and then I say I'm Dia Marketing on Twitter, and people are like, oh, okay, I know who you are now, which is a little bit weird because then it kind of changes the way you introduce yourself to people, because most of us all that are here know each other by our Twitter handles, and that's just kind of how it goes. If you're going to follow somebody or unfollow somebody, that's when you subscribe to their updates. Now, if people are following you, you don't have to necessarily feel obligated to follow back. Look at what they're tweeting. Go to that person's profile. Maybe they have some of the same interests as you do. Like maybe you like to birdwatch and they like to birdwatch too, and they talk about it and you find their tweets interesting. Go ahead and follow back.
Yes, what's protocol though? If somebody follows you, should you be responding in some way, or can you just let it go?
You don't have to. You can thank people for following you. I think that's really a great practice when you're getting started. Or if somebody that you really were excited, like say some celebrity randomly follows you and you're like, yay, Justin Bieber's following me, and you want to tell everybody that Justin Bieber's following you, go for it. Thank them for following you. And if Justin Bieber follows you, I want to know all about it. So, yes.
It's different than I don't do Twitter, but it's like with Facebook, you allow someone to be your friend, but not the same case with Twitter.
Twitter, there's a difference. So you have a public profile and you can have a private profile. So if you have a public profile, all of your updates are out there for everybody to see. So if somebody comes across your profile and is like, I'm really interested in what this person has to say, they'll follow you. There's no rhyme or reason necessarily. I have people that look up people named Dia. My name is not Dia. So then they'll follow like 50 people named Dia in a row. There's no rhyme or reason. If you have a private account, they can send you a follow request. And you can allow people to follow you or not allow them to follow you. It's kind of a filter, kind of like what Facebook has.
Oh.
So it's a little bit different in that way, but if you're trying to broadcast information, for example, I'm tweeting for my brand and my company, so I'm careful about what I tweet, but I also want people to follow because it's what I do. That's part of what I do. So, but yeah, if somebody follows you and say they're into stuff that you're just not interested in, if they're into drag racing and you're into bird watching, you don't have to follow them back. Also, people may follow you and they may unfollow you, and you're going to recognize that a lot when you have 20 followers. Suddenly you have 18. What did I do? Just don't take it personally. A lot of people tend to take it personally, and you can have friends that maybe you love them in person, but the stuff they tweet about you're just not interested in, or you find it offensive. You don't have to follow anybody if you don't want to. So just keep that in mind. Don't take it personally. Tweet about what you're interested in. It's going to come. It's going to take some time. I think a lot of people have issues when they get followed by people that they don't know when they first get started. Like, how does this person find out about me? Why are they following me? That's so weird. It's actually not very weird, because you never know what you said that's going to lead somebody to you. So, again, you could be talking about your pets, you could be talking about something completely random, fried chicken, and somebody will find you and follow you because of that. So it's not anything suspicious necessarily. Yes?
You made that tweet earlier. Did you hashtag fried chicken also?
I did not.
but you can't.
Just curious on the mechanics.
You can hashtag anything, and we'll get more into hashtags as we get into this. But yeah, you don't want to over hashtag either. So note to self: no more than 2 a tweet if you can help it.
Is there a slander for people that over hashtag?
People may not like you.
Okay.
So if you hashtag everything, people will call. There are some people I know that will call you out, or people just won't follow you because you're trying too hard. We'll talk a little bit more about Twitter etiquette as we go. I don't necessarily have slides on that because it's hard to describe, but we'll talk more about Twitter etiquette as we go. A mention is when you use somebody's Twitter handle. So if I say, what is your Twitter handle?
8-bit Nespunk.
I'm sorry?
8-bit Nespunk.
Okay, so if I say, nice to meet you, 8-bit Nespunk, you're going to see that in your mentions, and it's going to be the @ symbol and your Twitter username. So that's going to show up in your connect column on Twitter, and I should have had a screenshot, I apologize. So you can see your mentions, or if you use the @ symbol with somebody's username, they're going to see that you mentioned them. So then you can choose at that point if you want to follow them back, or if you just want to interact with them. You don't necessarily have to follow people to interact. A direct message. So these are private messages that you can send back and forth, but you have to be following each other. So for example, if I wanted to send you a direct message, you would have to be following me, and if you want to send me a direct message, I would have to be following you. So if I'm not following you...
I can only direct message someone that's following me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if I'm not following you and you want to send me a direct message, you cannot do that. So, but if I am following you, no problem. So, one of the things with direct messages that you'll see is that when you start following somebody and you might get a direct message from somebody that says, thanks for following, check out my Facebook page. That's called an automated direct message. Don't do it. Don't sign up for that stuff. Stay away from them. Again, it's about engagement, not automation. So you want people to recognize that even if you're tweeting for a brand or if you're tweeting for a company, you want people to recognize that you're actually this person behind that, not just a machine. To me, I had some issues with Verizon Wireless a couple weeks ago where they killed off 450 of my contacts on my phone. Yeah, and I tweeted them. They got back to me on Twitter. They followed me, DM'd me, and said, can you please send us this information? I sent them the information, and they resolved the issue within an hour. Fantastic. That's the kind of stuff that you want. They didn't send me an auto DM. They said, we're really sorry you're having this problem. We need this information from you. We will resolve this. And they kept me updated as it went through. Yes?
You mentioned you have clients that you do this for. I had
Yes.
hired somebody last year to put things up for me, and at first it was getting lots of traffic and things, but it just didn't feel authentic, so I stopped using her. And I just wondered, I mean, I'm not going on very much anymore. It just seems like too much work. I don't know, I mean, what's your thoughts on hiring somebody and scheduling things with tweets and all that kind of stuff?
I don't encourage people to really schedule tweets. I think that, and especially because it can be so untimely. I mean, things happen so quickly. So, like there was, for example, I think it was Groupon or Living Social, they had a tweet and they sent out an email that was scheduled that went out after Sandy hit, and it was, get a 2-room suite in Atlantic City. Well, there's nothing left. So talk about really poor timing. Granted, that's kind of how they work, but it's bad timing. It's not something that you really want to engage in. You want to be careful, that kind of stuff. Now, if you're talking about, you have a blog post that's got some great information. I know some great bloggers out there that put out information on SEO, social media, like different things, technology-based, and that kind of stuff they will schedule at different times. Like if they're on the East Coast, they might schedule it for 9 p.m. on Pacific time because they're in bed, but then people can actually see that content that they're putting out there. I say use that kind of sparingly, but that kind of stuff is not terrible to schedule, but you don't want to schedule everything. When you're on Twitter, again, about the whole engagement thing, I tell people to think about it as a dinner party. That there's 12 people at the dinner party, and then there's a new guy that comes in. Now, say the new guy comes in wearing a sandwich board, and he says, buy my product, and the whole time all he does is glad hand and talk about how great he is. Nobody's interested in that guy. They're going to be like, you know what? Who invited this guy? He's not coming back. But if you go out there and people are going to say, hi, what do you do? How do you know everybody here? Get into those conversations and draw people into you. that's going to develop those relationships that are then going to lead you to get some more business on a business perspective. If you just go out there and say, I sell whatever, I don't know, I'm sticking with the bird theme. So I sell bird cages, and that's all you talk about, and how great your bird cages are, and how they're better than everybody else's, nobody's going to want to tweet with you. So, but if you talk about, you get in conversations with people who own birds, that, you're like, hey, we have this new product for our bird cages, would you be interested? Send them all the information if they're interested. That's going to create that relationship that's like, this is a responsive brand. I want to know more. So, try and make sure it's not all one-sided. So, for example, we were talking about Facebook and how Facebook and Twitter are very different. Facebook is much more of a broadcasting tool where it's one-sided. So you're announcing to everybody, like, on my Facebook fan page, I talked about, I'm presenting about Twitter at TechPHX. My friends are like, congratulations. My fans are like, can't wait to hear about it. That's great. But on Twitter, I'm talking about it, and I tweeted that I was having problems connecting. They found me out in the hallway, he came in, he showed me how I needed to connect everything, and that was an interaction. So it's much different when you're actually interacting versus announcing. So keep that in mind. It's okay to announce stuff here and there, but if that's what your entire Twitter feed is, and that's all you're tweeting, people are going to lose interest really fast. So a retweet is, for example, I talked about fried chicken today. I tweeted, there's no polite way to eat fried chicken. Somebody thought it was funny, so they retweeted it. So they tweeted it out to their people. So I have my web of 3,000 people or so, and she retweeted it and went out to her web of however many followers she has, and et cetera, et cetera. So then it was retweeted out from there from people I don't know. So apparently,
retweets, it still keeps your handle on it, right?
Yes, yes. And actually, there's two different kinds of retweets, and it depends on what client you're using. So if you're on Twitter, on the web, they have something called a native retweet. So if you click retweet, it's just going to show up that you retweeted my fried chicken tweet. But there's Twitter clients. There's TweetDeck, there's Hootsuite, there's Sprout Social. There's all these products that you can use. Some are free, some are paid for. For business, I encourage a lot of people to use Hootsuite. The statistics are fantastic. Very easy to track, but you can, on that, you can choose if you want to do the native retweet or if you want to do what is called, some of us call the old school retweet, which shows up as RT and then your handle. And you can actually put in a comment before the retweet. But you have to keep it on 140 characters.
I didn't get that right. I tried using Hootsuite, and I tried the format for the person I hired done, because I said, I'm going to learn how to do it. I could not get it to work no how. There was just something about the format, I just couldn't get it right.
Well, just remember that it's not the only product that's out there. I know people that detest Hootsuite. There are people that like TweetDeck. I have an Android device, and I used to have an iPhone, and I have, the Twitter app on there, which is, just like Twitter. And then I have, for the iPhone, I really like EchoPhone, and for the Android, I really like TweetDeck and Plume. And they're very different products, but Plume is a free Android app, and I actually really like it because, say, I tweeted something from TechPHX, just a moment. You can retweet it, and it will actually include the original hashtag as well as any other parties, and you can include them or exclude them. But it's a really easy to use product. So
EchoPhone, you're saying also?
EchoPhone for the iPhone. It's ECHFON. Yes.
I was just wondering what you think about Sprout Social.
I really like it, but it depends. I had a client that was very, they wanted to know the performance of all their networks. It was a great way for me to compile weekly reports, and then they could go back in at any time and view those reports, as well as have weekly webinars as to how to maximize your social media efforts. And that I found it to be very helpful, but I also found it to be really annoying because their online app, like their phone apps, are terrible. Like a lot of the apps that you have, even Twitter, they'll pull up a Twitter handle for somebody. So say you don't necessarily remember exactly my Twitter handle, but you remember DIYA. You can type that in and it'll auto-populate, but with Sprout Social, you have to remember everything on their mobile apps. So that's kind of frustrating to me. Again, I really like Plume, and I was just introduced to it about 3 weeks ago. And that one's free. So if you can get free apps, then go for it. Sprout Social is also good for Facebook page management, not to post from. Never post on a third-party app for Facebook. Always post directly on a Facebook fan page. But I like the fact that I can actually send messages to fans of the page through Sprout Social. So and their lowest plan is like $9 a month. So it's really inexpensive, but there are a lot of other tools out there that are free that give you a lot of the same information.
By the way, I just pulled up Echo Phone and
Yeah.
it said they've discontinued their desktop app
Okay.
as of the end of,
Yeah, and I wouldn't worry about that, but through your phone, it's really, really easy to use. It'll pull up people's Twitter handles. It'll pull up any information that you need, and it's easy to follow along if there's a hashtag or something to follow. Any other questions on retweets? Okay, one thing on retweets, so say somebody has said something that's 135 characters and you go to retweet it and it's too long, you can modify that tweet, and so you can shorten it and keep the message the same. So maybe it's, you know, we're having a buy one, get one free sale here and has a whole address, and so you take out part of the address, use an MT at the front of the retweet so that it shows a modified tweet as opposed to a true retweet. So, favorite, I kind of use this a little bit. So if I come across something in my Twitter feed that I think is really interesting, and Twitter is, again, it goes. So if I find something I really like, maybe it's an article or something like that that I'm interested in reading at a later time, I'll favorite it, and I go back to my favorites at the end of every day, and I read those articles and I unfavorite the ones that I don't want to keep. It's also a good way of keeping any tweets that may be memorable to you. Maybe somebody gives you a compliment, or is like, I really like your marketing efforts, or I really love your products. You might want to favorite that so you can kind of keep that as almost like a reference. So the big question I get when it comes to talking about Twitter is, what is a hashtag? A hashtag is, you'll see the pound sign. You see people do stuff like this, which I think is really cheesy, but kind of funny because I'm a social media nerd. But the official definition of the hashtag, and I'll just read it to you because it's very dry and it's directly from Twitter, is the pound symbol. It's called a hashtag, used to mark keywords or topics in a tweet. And hashtags can kind of be used in a lot of different ways. Like, for example, today at TechPHX, if you are going through your Twitter feed or anybody's Twitter feed and you click on TechPHX, it's going to pull up all the tweets about TechPHX. No matter what anybody said, it will show you all of the tweets for this conference. And actually, a lot of conferences, as soon as you come in, they have a keynote and they'll have a hashtag in the upper right corner. When the presidential elections were going on, people were really annoyed the first debate because they didn't have an official hashtag. So people are on Twitter saying, do I use hashtag debate? Do I say hashtag 2000 or debate 2012? What do I use? People were really annoyed. It was kind of funny. So then a lot of news channels the second time around said, you know, NBC election 2012 or whatever it was. They would designate their own hashtags and they could follow them along and they could read them out, you know, at whatever point during the broadcast. So there are some rules when it comes to a hashtag. There has to be unofficial rules and people will glare at you and they'll know if you're new, and that's kind of what we do, I guess. So if you have a private account, which I mentioned earlier, you can use the hashtag, but if people aren't following you, it's not going to show up in the main stream. So even if you have a private account and you use the hashtag TechPHX, if people aren't following you, you're not going to show up in their streams, the search stream for TechPHX. Don't spam with hashtags. So, you know, you've mentioned using fried chicken as a hashtag. I think if I had more of an interest in something, I would hashtag it. I'm very much into organ donation, so if I see something with organ donor, I use hashtag organ donor in that tweet. And the reason for that is that any other organization or people that follow that hashtag can find that same information. Excuse me. Try not to use more than 2 hashtags in any tweet. If you have to, that's fine, but don't make it a habit. And use hashtags that are relevant to the topic. And this goes into, yes?
Who is allowed to name a hashtag?
Anybody can create any kind of hashtag, and we'll get into that a little bit further. Anybody, you can do whatever you want with hashtag. We'll get a little bit further into that. So, say somebody is talking about something that's not here. So say somebody's like, I had a great time at the zoo, hashtag TechPHX. Well, they're kind of spamming the feed because we don't really care. There's no elephants here, there's no zoos, there's no nothing. So what are you talking about? They're just trying to get people to see their tweet. So make sure it's relevant. So whether it's about lunch at TechPHX, whether it's whatever, make sure it's relevant. If you're talking about eating bacon and then you use hashtag vegan, you're just being mean to the vegans. Don't do that. So don't taunt anybody. So other rules for the hashtag. So again, I talked about conferences, TV shows, like Real Housewives of New Jersey, Bravo. I would say the Bravo TV network has done a great job with their social media, although they drive me bonkers, but I follow them because they do a nice job and I like to use them as an example. So for all of their shows, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, they'll have a hashtag for it. So Real Housewives of New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey, I don't watch that show. But you can follow along on that hashtag and you can see what's happening. But I will say that being on, not being able to watch it live, so like if somebody's watching on the East Coast and you're following the hashtag, you're gonna find out everything that happens in that show and it's gonna ruin it for you. Which is why people are very angry when there's an awards show that's broadcast live and then we get tape delay over here. It does not work anymore. You can't do it because everything gets spoiled. I think it was the Grammys this year that they did that, and people were like, what are you doing? We know everything. Forget it, I'm not gonna watch it. So, or people will just tune out of social media entirely until it actually broadcasts where they are. So hashtags can also be utilized to convey emotion or sentiment. So I used, for example, I ran out of my favorite shampoo, hashtag sad. And somebody may respond and say, must be hard to run out of your favorite shampoo, hashtag sarcasm. So you can emote. So you know how in texts and things like that, you kind of have to be careful about how you write, and you don't want to be too snarky. This is actually a good way of denoting what your tone is. So there are also hashtags for certain subjects. There's something called humble brag on Twitter that it might be a celebrity that's like, oh no, I got another free Louis Vuitton purse. And somebody will retweet it and use the hashtag humble brag because you're like, oh, this is so being so amazing. So you're going to see stuff like that where people may come across a tweet that you have and they may retweet it and add their own hashtag to it.
First world problems.
What's that?
Or first world problems.
First world problems, that's a great example where it's like, oh, my internet is out, or, oh, I don't have a charger nearby, my battery's at 10% for hashtag first world problems, because we tend to whine a little bit about things that aren't really a concern.
Should get the new iPhone or not?
So I think the iPhone 5 or the S3 or whatever, like, people will tweet about that stuff and they'll get retweeted with first world problems, and then there are accounts for that. And you also see, like, Sandy was a great example of Twitter doing a really nice job. So, like, the one thing I really liked was that they, pretty much adopted the Frankenstorm until it hit, and then Sandy, and man, oh man, like, the New York Fire Department, this woman, I think, worked for 17 hours straight and was talking about power outages, telling people where to evacuate from, answering questions. I mean, she was on it, and she knew, and people felt connected. I know that I was watching the NYU evacuation happen on Twitter. It was crazy. People were using hashtag NYU, hashtag Sandy, and I was following it, and you could see them evacuating the hospital.
So she didn't have a list she was sending to, she just put the hashtags, so everybody was searching for it.
Yep.
Okay. I'm starting to get
Yes.
it. I wasn't understanding why or how.
Yes, you just click on the hashtag, and it'll give you a list of all of it. So again, I'm sorry I don't have screenshots. My computer has not really been cooperative in screenshots for some reason, but I'd be happy to show you after the session if you'd like. Any other questions about hashtags? Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. So I do social media for Phoenix Comic Con,
Okay.
and every time I do a tweet, I put our hashtag in it, PHXCC. I'm trying to wonder, is that a good idea to do it with, because it seems like every post I'm putting it out there, I'm mentioning ourselves, or if it's not relevant to put it in there, I put it at the end. So
If you're tweeting about an event like that, I would always put the hashtag in it. I do an event called the Mac and Cheese Throwdown, and so we call it MNCT in whatever year it is. And when I'm tweeting about it, I use it at the end of every tweet. It doesn't matter. If I'm talking about it, it's in every tweet because I want people to see that information.
Question, you
Yes.
don't put your handle in.
No, don't put your own handle in, because then you're wasting, you only have 140 characters.
Right.
So you don't wanna waste that time, that space. And if you're doing a hashtag for an event, you know, like mac and cheese throwdown is a really long hashtag, so we made an acronym. And, you know, and I tend to, when I'm talking about the event, and you may wanna do this too, is that, you know, hey, for everybody who's attending blah, blah, blah event, this is the hashtag for the event. And then at the event, we have signs everywhere that say this is a hashtag for this event. So, yes?
You can just use letters and numbers in a hashtag, no
Yes.
special characters.
You cannot use special characters, so you can't use like an ampersand or a dash or an apostrophe. Sorry. So it will break up the hashtag. So if you say, no, I don't do that, and it will say, no, I don't, and then that hashtag ends as soon as you use a special character.
So no dashes or underscores?
No, nothing. So
Just
just
letters and numbers?
letters and numbers. And I tell people, I mean, from myself, I capitalize words within a hashtag. So if I'm like, I'm sorry, it'll just be I am apostrophe, or no apostrophe, and then a capital SORRY.
But what about the shortened things like bit.ly and that?
That is actually a URL, so which is different. That's an actual. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure nobody's. There are people tweeting, so I'm trying to pay attention to that too for TechPHX. That's a different thing, and we'll get to that towards the end. So, but hashtags, again, for an event, any kind of emotion, anybody can create one. You are a god when it comes to creating a hashtag. Nobody can tell you what you can't do. Just be careful and make sure you're, again, using hashtags that are relevant to what you're talking about. So, okay, any other questions? Thoughts?
The actual text in a tweet is letters, numbers, certain characters?
You can do whatever you want
Oh.
within the tweet. Just stay under the 140 character limit. So, yeah. Anything else? Okay, Twitter lists. This is not my most favorite part to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about it. When you follow over 50 people or so, it gets to be a little bit chaotic, because if you're following people that are heavy users that tweet, I mean, I tweet 40 to 50 times a day. So, yeah, you're going to look at me like I'm a little crazy. But if you're following people that are heavy users, and I follow people that tweet hundreds of times a day, and that's fine, you just get to a point where it's a lot of clutter. And so maybe you're following AP, and maybe you're following a couple of news sources. Maybe you're following a couple people that are local. I follow people that talk about food. I follow people that do PR marketing. So I have different lists for everybody. And the reason I do that is because then I can go and click on that list and I can see just what those people are talking about. And that way I'm not necessarily missing out. So if there's a PR trend that's happening in town, that I can go to that list of Phoenix PR people and it's gonna just automatically load. If a list is public, you can follow anybody's list. So say, you're a marketing person and you're like, I want to know more about these PR people she's following. You don't necessarily have to follow those people, but you can follow my list and you can see what all those people are talking about. So essentially a list is a curated group. Again, this is all from twitter.com, so you can find all the information there as well. It's a curated group of Twitter users. You can create your own lists or subscribe to lists created by others. Doing a list in timeline will show you streaming feeds from only those people on the list. So you're getting rid of the clutter. So if you just want to find out about the PR stuff, you're not finding out about the news, you're not seeing what somebody has for breakfast, you're just seeing the PR people in Phoenix. It's used for reading tweets only. You can't necessarily respond to those people. If you want to respond to them, click on their profile and you can tweet back to them. So, but otherwise you're just reading what they have to say in those particular lists. So. This is also important, and this used to be a lot easier to do since Twitter has gone through its 7,400 revamps. It's changed a little bit. So basically, you go to your list page, and you're going to click Create List. You enter the name of your list. You can decide to make it public or private. So if you keep it private, you're the only person that can see it. If you make it public, anybody can see it, and anybody can subscribe to your list. And then you can click on Save List. So when you follow somebody, there's a gear on their profile. And again, I will walk you through this. I apologize because of the lack of screenshots I have. There's a little gear, and you can add them to a list. And if say add or create a list, you click on that, and it'll walk you through it. once you create the list. So, there's something called cross-posting, and you may see people on Twitter or on Facebook that have, so on Twitter, if you cross-post from Facebook, and you have a link, it'll say blah, 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 and then there'll be a link that says fb.on.whatever. That means it's a cross-post. You don't want, I discourage people from cross-posting a lot. You can cross-post from anything. You can cross-post from Google Plus to Twitter to Facebook, Facebook to Twitter, Facebook to Google Plus. There's other networks like Foursquare and Instagram that you can link to everything. Just be careful, because if somebody is following you on every network, and I just see like you posted a photo on Twitter and now it's on Facebook, and like it's linked, and I can see you posted this from Twitter onto Facebook and onto Instagram and onto Foursquare, I'm gonna stop following you, because I want to see the same information everywhere. So I'm gonna be like, you know what network do I really want to see this person on? Facebook? Okay, I'm gonna unfollow you. It also kind of denotes a little bit of laziness. You know, to me, if you're posting something on Instagram, it's okay to post it on Twitter because it does a nice job of shortening your comments so it fits within 140 characters. But if you're posting stuff on Facebook and then you're automatically tweeting it, and it's, you know, you're like, hey, I'm teaching at TechPHX, and I have a 200-word paragraph, it's not, you're going to see the first 140 characters in a link. And then people are going to get annoyed at you because you can't see the rest of the information. And to get the most out of Twitter, you want to have as much information as you can within those 140 characters. The attention span is getting smaller and smaller. So make it as easy as possible for people to get the information that they need from you. The longer you make it, the harder it'll be to keep their attention. Yes?
I think that's part of the reason, part of the problem that I had when I was first on Twitter is I was also getting into Facebook, but I was using Twitter more, and I was posting things, and I was having all my stuff pushed from Twitter to Facebook, so that it was, my Facebook was being updated with whatever I said on Twitter. But I was on Twitter more, and I was having those conversations and those genuine conversations and interactions with people on Twitter.
Yes.
But I wasn't necessarily doing that on Facebook, and so the people that were friends with me on Facebook thought I was ungenuine and that I wasn't having those conversations with them. And so it was almost like I didn't have time to do both, and so I think I ended up picking Facebook and letting Twitter fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I don't have mine connected. I have my company page connected, but I rarely update on there. And if you're going to do it, don't do it more than once a day. And do Facebook to Twitter, and make sure your post is under 140 characters so it's not going to cut off. So that's my first key point. And then I recommend that people keep it separate, because I find that I talk about completely separate things on Facebook and on Twitter. So that fried chicken thing would never be on Facebook, because again, it's a broadcast. Do I really care what my friends think about the fact that I eat fried chicken at a conference? No. And all people are going to do is like it or be like, why are you eating fried chicken? That's really bad for you, and I don't really want to hear about it. So, and like on Twitter, it's there and it's gone.
Yeah, they're completely different.
It's very quick. Whereas on Facebook, it stays. You have a much longer shelf life on Facebook, so you can consider that you have at least 2 days on Facebook versus for a personal post versus Twitter, where you have a 5-minute shelf life, and then that tweet's gone. You're not going to see it anymore if you're following enough people and enough people are following you. So, yeah. Any other thoughts on?
So I guess what you were saying though is conversely, if you've got, for instance, I'm interested in hiking and parks and health, and so I'm announcing to people, hey, guess what, it's a free weekend at the parks. If I keep it to 140 characters, put it on Twitter, that's a nice thing to do. If I put it on Facebook, I go longer and discuss more.
Yes.
So it is different. So if somebody subscribes to both of those with me, they won't see the same thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And you can
But that's
expand
good.
them and give a little bit more information on Facebook. I mean, some of the subjects I talk about, I get a little bit more expansive on Facebook than I will on Twitter.
Okay.
So, like, I talk a lot about organ donation, and so I'll put up statistics and things like that, but I may not do the same thing on Twitter. So, yes.
I've played with Twitter for maybe a couple of hours. And within an hour of setting up my handle, I started getting tweets that you are a beautiful person and God made you that way, and you can do anything you want. And it was 50 tweets, bam, from the same person.
Yes, they're
And so
spamming.
I figured out how to report that person. And then in the next hour, I got the same type of tweets, not necessarily, I didn't read them all, but the same type of tweets, but from a different handle. Now, what does somebody do? Set their account to know everybody knew, or?
No, a lot of times it depends on what you set up in your bio. And again,
As
I
little
feel-
as possible, just to get me in there.
And a
I'm
lot of
scared
times,
of it.
there are bots out there that they will troll, and they will find new accounts, or they will find accounts with certain keywords within the bio or certain things that you say, and they will just tweet you until all you can do is report for spam. So don't let that discourage you. It happens, and there are times when the spam problems are really, really bad, and then Twitter does a big push and they clean it up. You will see on occasion that you might get a direct message from somebody, and they'll say, "Oh, somebody posted a really bad picture of you." That's usually spam.
I get
Don't-
that in email, I don't get that in Twitter.
Yeah, don't click on the
It'll
link. Just-
come.
Yeah, it'll
Or the
come.
FBI has
Sorry.
reported, that's the new one.
Yes,
yeah.
don't click on those links, just delete it. I tend to just send a public tweet to that person and say, by the way, I think you've been hacked. You may want to change your password. You know, there's some people that they're not on Twitter very often, or they're on it, you know, there's some news personalities that they're on it once a week or so.
I'm
Yes.
not sure if I remember, it might have been Facebook, maybe you can help us. During the campaign, I got some really hate messages about some of the candidates, it was awful. And I blocked, that must be Facebook, I blocked this one person, but I'd like to just take them off.
Just unfriend them.
I don't even know where to go to do that.
If you go under the cover photo on the right-hand side,
Oh, photo, okay.
yeah, there's an arrow that points down, and it'll just, at the last
like your-
option is unfriend.
Yeah.
I think with that kind of hateful stuff, I
There
don't
was a
care.
lot of that
Oh,
with the
ugly.
campaign.
I
Anybody
mean,
else
really,
there was a lot of
I'd like to
negativity?
see him dead, you know, that kind of awfulness. I mean,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
But you find people that
True.
you thought you were friends with, and then when you start to get this kind of crap, and I mean personal friends, face-to-face
Yes,
friends,
yes.
and you wonder whether you want to still be their friend. I
Yeah,
wonder if you still want to go out to dinner with them, or whatever the case may be, because you're right, that was very, very hateful.
there was a lot of that, and I think that there was actually a lot of conversations about what people were doing in regards to the election, and that, you know, they kind of had their own soapbox to stand on, and so to me, it's, if you're talking about the issues and you're actually talking about what's relevant, there was a huge difference between doing that and saying that if you vote for this candidate, you're a bum. I mean, there was personal attacks, and I think that tells you a lot about the character of that person, and I know a lot of people who unfriended people because of that behavior. I also know people, I was unfriended by somebody because of who I voted for, and not that I was open about it. She made an assumption based on my skin color and said, I'm unfriending you because I think you voted for this candidate. And I said, wow, I don't want to be your friend anyways. We're done here. So you
Go
find
ahead
out,
and unfriend.
what's that?
Go ahead and unfriend it.
Yeah, I
That's
said,
what
I
you
really,
think.
if that's your
I mean-
assumption, I really have no issue with that.
I mean, it's so extreme that maybe three years ago, I saw my stepson and his wife unravel their marriage on Facebook. Of the vitriol and the people taking sides, and so for the longest time, I didn't want to really use them. I only started in the last year and a half. It was just so ugly, and I thought, how can people do that? And I've also heard that it can ruin potential for jobs
Yes.
and careers. because
That's
it's
why I
out
say,
there.
I mean, I don't care what platform you're posting it on, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever, be careful before you hit post. If you're not gonna put it up on a billboard, do not post it, please. Have a little concern for, you know, your future life, your future career, because people can look it up. And I think that it's gonna be a subject that's gonna come up for kids in school, because there are kids on Twitter, and like I had this one kid that I worked with on an internship for a corporation that I worked for. And I called him at like 10 o'clock at night. I said, I know you're only 15, you don't think anything of this, but I said, your last 6 tweets, I said, you're never gonna get a job. You're never gonna be able to get into college. And he said, oh, who cares? I said, because your name's attached. You're, you know, and he was like, you have a point, and he deleted them and been a lot more cognizant of it. But I think that that's a conversation everybody needs to have before they go online. So, because you just never know what people can find, so.
Thank you. Because I don't think people realize that.
Yes. So, yeah, don't do this. Don't do that. That's not okay. A lot of people cross-post with everything. Don't do it. Please don't do it. So if they want to find you, they will find you on that social network, and they can find your information. And you don't have to worry about cross-posting and everything. So, any questions? I know I didn't realize I had so much to cover. I feel like you kind of get into it and you start talking and you run out of time. And so, yeah, any questions? Okay. Well, I unfortunately am out of business cards. I had to get up really early this morning and totally forgot to restock. Here's my information, and I will tweet it out as well if you guys decide to get on Twitter. Like I said, I am at Dia Marketing. That's the same name of my company as well. Thank you. And if you guys have any questions or anything, you can email me. It's my name at diamarketing.com. So, oh, very cool. Actually, I should get into that. All right. Any final thoughts? Are you guys gonna get on Twitter? And I'm not that interesting, so you may not want to follow me. So I don't expect to be.
I don't know, I like chicken.
I talk a lot about food, so it's something
Good,
that.
I'm going to be doing cooking for the couch potato.
Oh. Yeah, I would love that. That'd be great. Let's talk after we're done here, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all the questions. Makes my life a lot easier. So
Thank you very
have
much.
a great day, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
You were very non-judgmental, and I know a lot of people who are tech people get kind of, as the word they say, snarky about us novices who, you know, I heard somebody, like I said, and I felt like she was kind of condescending. And at first her things were very tailored to my stuff, and I said, good. But then they began to be more and more generic and stupid, and I thought, why am I paying her all this money for some things that really aren't advancing my brand? I mean, I understand you want to pump your brand constantly because that's really overkill, but still.
Yes, it takes time, and I mean, like I have a client that they have like a pet hostel and grooming and stuff like that. So I'm talking to a lot of people about pets and what a fun subject, because everybody, I mean, people are sending photos and I love it. So the thing is that the person, they need to find out about the business from the ground up, and then you can have a conversation with people about it. So be happy to talk to you if you are still looking. But I also can understand if you have a bad taste in your mouth from working with somebody that you're not.
I want to do it myself, but I have to find a way to make my life time schedule things,
Yes.
because I'm also writing for 2 newspapers.
Oh, wow.
But I would love to hear from you.
Yes.
Because what I plan to do with the cooking for the couch potato is easy recipes that are helpful that you can either take on the trail with you, or you can eat or have ready for you, like a crock pot kind of thing, so that you don't have to spend all your time cooking and fussing, but you still know you're going to eat well and then you get out on the trail.
Right.
So if you've got ideas of things you'd like to see recipes for,
Yeah.
I would love to have your feedback.
That'd be
Now, I
great.
don't wanna
Yeah,
have
sorry,
your
I'm
time.
gonna have to
I know,
go
I
out,
get
so-
other people, so.
Hi.
I gotta-
Hi, I'm Kirti Hill,
Hi.
and I put on a computer conference in Scottsdale
Okay.
this coming April.
Oh, fabulous.
I'm hoping that you,
Thank you so much. It was very nice to meet you as well.
I'm hoping that you'll be interested in perhaps presenting the same presentation, and I'll be in touch next month or the first of the year, whenever my butt will get it.
I understand.
But anyway, I took down your email address, and,
Yeah, and I'll shoot you an email so we'll just make sure we're in touch.
okay,
So,
sounds good. Thank
it's
you.
very nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thanks
meet
for
you too.
attending.
This is you?
That would be me.
That's a good picture.
Thanks.
I'm gonna follow you.
I will follow you back. Only if you have good things to say.
Hmm?
Only if you have interesting things to say.
Or, I'm really good with that on Facebook.
Yes, just again.
I haven't yet figured out the exact mechanics of Twitter.
It's
I'm working on it.
Just think of it as you're in a big empty room and you're kind of just yelling at yourself for a while, and then people will
I do
still,
that.
yeah, and then you gotta find people you're interested in talking to. This is a good conference for that. So follow the hashtag, see if you're interested in something. It's so familiar to me, and I don't know why.
Probably Twitter.
Huh?
I said it was probably Twitter.
Is it?
So what's your
Your face just looks very familiar to me. That's why I kept looking at it. Yes. Hi.
I was just saying hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Thanks for interacting on me with everybody in the box.
Yeah, for sure. That's one.
Good at that. Yes. Yeah. So I hope you enjoy it.
No, yeah.
Good. Oh, that's you. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Tyler tweeted.
Yeah.
I don't know what you said. So I'm like,
I quoted your, what was it? Oh, if you're drinking or on something, don't tweet. I thought that was hilarious. So.
I am sorry. I I tweeted one time, and I rarely tweet when I'm working, but I did one time. I was out of town, and I think I was just kind of like, whatever. And two of my friends called me and said, delete your tweet. And I'm like, it's not saying he's scandalous, but you're obviously wrong. And I was like, okay, thanks, I appreciate it. And I was like, I love it. Yeah. And they're my Twitter friends, too, so.
I should probably retweet it.
Yeah, my friends were like, no, you're trying to work in business, don't do that. So, yeah, no, but I had, like, I went on 4 interviews and they called me 2 minutes waiting for me to screw up. Oh my goodness, so they calling for 60 days. I was like, what? Yeah, I had no idea. I'm like, it's a little excessive.
Yeah.
Well, the position was, I went through 5 interviews and they hired me for like,
That's crazy.
yeah, so you just never know what people are looking at, so just be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right, well, I'm gonna pack up, but I will see you guys out there.
Well, it was
So,
great to meet you.
very nice to meet you too. Thanks. Nice to meet you.